This next comment is, get your books printed in the United States. What's wrong with you? Shame, 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 shame.
Well,
Shame on us, honey.
First thing I have to ask you is, are you self-employed? If you're not, then keep your mouth shut until you know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I made a comment that our books are printed in South Korea, and we may have to pay more on tariffs if tariffs are implemented for places like South Korea. Nothing has been said about that yet, but I was just saying that because our books are in South Korea, we just may need to expect that. So I got this comment, and let me explain why our books are not printed in the United States. Up until 5 years ago, our books were printed in the United States. Now, when we started doing larger quantities of the very high quality book that we print now with a special binding so that it lays flat, we literally could not find a printer to do it in the United States. We are too small for the big printers, and we're too little. Wait a minute, we're too big for the small printers, and we're too little for the big printers. Too small for the big printers and too big for the little printers. That's what I meant to say.
But there's another thing. We had them printed here, and there was one company we worked with for a lot of years. Then they sold out to a larger company, and we were not advised that they sold out to a larger company. But what we
just
found
noticed a difference in our books.
But after we spent $40,000 of our own personal money, like, do you spend $40,000 of your own personal money, Mickey? If you don't, then you need to not be criticizing. Okay, now, after spending $40,000 of our personal money, they sent us a whole bunch of books that could not be sold because they were so horrible.
Because they printed them wrong. And they were actually dangerous because what they did was they cut the binding wrong, and it cut me when I was packing them to ship.
It would stab people.
It was actually dangerous.
And so we got
printed in the United States.
So we got back with the printer that we had worked with for like 8 years in the United States, and we had to deal with them, and eventually we found out they sold to a bigger corporation, and that corporation did not want to make it right, really, and we had to really squeeze them to make it right. But ultimately, we didn't want to have them doing that anymore because they were unable to give us good quality books. So then we put out a lot of feelers and asked for quotes from a lot of printers in the United States, and all of them said no. So what would you do? Would you not sell your book at all because nobody in the United States will print it? Or would you print it in another country? Or would you just say, hey, Mickey, why don't you invest $100 million and start your own printing company so that we can use you in the United States to do it? Like, those are the options. But since you don't want to spend your $100 million on it, we got quotes from the people that would give us quotes. And the ones that would give us quotes were in China. And we're like, China is really kind of not friendly to the United States. And South Korea, which is a strong ally of the United States. And I doubt there will be tariffs actually on anything from South Korea.
I doubt it.
Because we're very good allies with them, and I think they treat us reasonably. So the issue is nobody in America would bid. And the reason why is because, again, as Tara was saying, we are too big of a publisher for small companies to work with us. But we're too small of a publisher for the really huge companies to work with us.
And we don't want to invest $150,000 in printing books to have them printed in the United States and then have it cost 3 times the amount that it would cost to have them printed and shipped in South Korea. Let's get this point across. If you had a $10 book and it cost you $2 to have it printed in South Korea, including shipping, or you had a $10 book and it cost you $8 to have it printed in the United States, as a business person, what are you going to do?
Well, and what I kind of think Mickey doesn't probably understand is there are a lot of expenses in doing business.
Yeah.
So if you pay $8 for a book and sell it for $10,
You're not going to make any
you're
money.
basically paying every customer $5 or $10 to take your product for free. So you can't make money doing that. So what I would say on this is the options would be basically what you're saying, Mickey. Maybe it's just because you don't understand about business and that's whatever. But the thing is, what you're essentially saying is, shame on us for having a book that we sell.
And making a profit off of it.
Because if we could not make it, if we said we're not going to make it except in the United States, there would be no book. We had it in the United States for a long time, but when circumstances don't work out, it's not like you can just say, I'm going to snap my fingers and everything's going to be made in the United States. No. You have to say, somebody's got to do the work. You just can't make a law that something is going to happen. It's like in California when they were having all the rolling blackouts. And the solution to the rolling blackouts, oh no, it's not the rolling blackouts. The electric prices were high, and the solution to electric prices being high was, let's make a law. Let's make a law saying you can't charge more. So then the companies just didn't produce power anymore, and then there were rolling blackouts. Because you just can't expect people to do work for nothing. So in our case, the small companies wouldn't be able to handle the work we're doing. The big companies don't feel like they can pay the people that they have for the size of book orders that we'd be making.
Yep. So we have no shame in having our books printed in South Korea.
But before you...
And if you do, well, tough.
Well, and honestly, if you say shame for something where you're just ignorant of the facts, you're kind of shaming yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you criticize something about something you don't have any knowledge of, you're shaming yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's why our books are printed in South Korea. Today's viewer question is from Ashlyn. She says, I was watching one of your grocery audits and the woman was spending $1,000 a month. Her husband she thought she was spending $100 a month, but had actually been spending well over $1,000 a month. Her husband hunted, and it wasn't as frugal as they thought. She homeschools a family of 4, and her husband is their only income. Her question is, she was thinking about having a garden this year, but is now wondering if the cost of that is worth having a garden, or should she just wait and not do that? She said, we make $53,000 a year and trying to pay out $27,000 in debt. We rent our 69-acre house for $700 a month and are regularly living paycheck to paycheck. Can I actually afford to garden? So, Mike, what do you think your wife is going to answer to that one? Because I'm the gardener in the family. Well, I'm the gardener, but he's my tiller and my workhorse.
What am I going to say?
You do a good job. What do you think I'm going to answer that question?
Well, for you, I don't think there's that much cost in gardening. It's mostly, do you have the time to do it?
Do you think it's worth, though, if we had to pay full price for everything we've done to put in our raised beds, do you think it's worth it? No.
If you're doing it because you like to do it as a hobby and you get a little bit of produce out of it, then do it. If you want to do it to save money, there's an awful lot of work for a very small amount of money savings.
If you're doing it just to save money, I wouldn't do it unless you can do it almost practically free. So what would that mean? You get your soil free, you get your containers free, your raised beds, you have your ground free, however you're putting it in there. Well, they say they rent it, so.
Yeah, but if they're living on it, they could probably use it.
I don't know. I thought they meant they were renting out their 69 acres. Oh, they're renting. Okay, yeah. Well, shoot, for $700 a month, where do you live? Mississippi? Oh my goodness, that's a darn tootin' good deal. Okay, so if you're just putting it on the land and it's basically free, I mean, for 69 acres for $700, you've got to be living somewhere where you can farm. So I would say if you can do it all for free, that's fine.
If you have the time. If
you have the time and you like doing it, but as a general rule, gardening doesn't really save money. It can if you really like doing it and you get into it and you do it for free. But for me, you want to know a secret? Like 50% of my garden produce gets thrown away.
You
Why?
mostly like to do flowers.
I mostly like to do flowers. I grow my garden, but why does it get thrown away? Because usually I get hailed on and I lose it all. Like, I don't know, probably the last, I would say probably the last 8 years, every year I've had a major hailstorm take out my garden. So I really don't get a lot of garden produce. I can guarantee you I do not get enough garden produce that it's worth the amount of work that I do for my garden. And I really basically just do it for the joy of it. So is it worth it? If you want to do it as a hobby and have something that comes out of it, fine. Otherwise, no, I wouldn't do it.
Well, also, if you were doing it specifically for the purpose of saving money, something like a hailstorm would just completely put you out of business on that.
Yeah.
So if you're only doing it for saving money, it would be better to find another way to save money.
Yeah.
Or another way to bring in a little money to cover that cost. That's not going to risk the fact that you're going to have you may have your garden destroyed.
Yeah, so good job on working on paying off your bills. I think you guys are on your way. Just keep going. You really don't have that much further to go. So I think you can do it. Good job.
Yay.